Good morning, everybody. Sorry, for some reason my connection wasn't good and I wasn't able to do Facebook Live today, but still wanted to give you guys a video anyway. Today's topic is about self-deception. This topic comes and is inspired by a friend of mine. Her name's Jacqueline Smart, and I think this was a good one. So, in order to figure out how we deceive ourselves, we first need to define the word deception. So, deception is defined as to trick or deceive, or to imply blameworthiness. That's $1 million word for you. So I was asking Jackie because she's actually going to school to be a teacher, and I said, "Well, do a lot of the kids you talk to, are they having problems with believing in God and things like that?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." She said a lot of kids actually say, because all these things happen to them or their parents didn't really love them or take care of them or do things for them, they just stopped believing in God. And the sad thing about it was they take that blame from their parents or their loved ones or their guardians, and they put that blame on God and blame him for it. And I asked her, I said, "Well, how do you respond?" And she was just like, "Oh, okay, well, I understand." And I think when we talk to kids especially, and we don't really try to shift their focus or maybe question them on their beliefs, I think we almost kind of give way to their belief systems and almost validate it. Because when we say we understand, it's almost like we agree. And my whole thing about that is, it's not just kids that do it, it's also adults that do it. We think that other people should think like we think, and we shift that blame, or we trick or deceive ourselves into believing certain things about God when we don't really know God. Because one of the questions I asked her was, "Well, who do you think God is? What do you think he's responsible for, to these kids?" And she said, "Oh, I never really thought about asking that question." And the thing about it is, as an atheist myself, when I was an atheist, those are things that I thought. God should do this and he should do that and he's responsible for this, and just different things. Like the biggest question of all is, why does he let those things happen? Well, obviously the reason why he lets those things happen, and this is said so in the Bible, is because of free will. Now, if your parents teach you all the right things growing up, I mean, they teach you right from wrong, they teach you to not do this, they teach you to not do that. When you grow up and you become an adult or a teenager and you do those things anyway, is it your parents' fault or is it your fault? So I think what happens is we, again, misplace the blame on people, and we blame God for it. And that's not his fault. That's our fault as people. And we don't just do it as children. We also do it as adults. I mean, for example, staying over at someone else's house. How many of us blame those people because they don't think like we think and they don't do things like we do them? Or raising kids. I mean, how many of our neighbors don't raise kids like we raise our kids? Or being married. How many of us think that because of the morals and ethics that were instilled in us, our mates should have the same morals and ethics? But it's not always the case. Those same core values aren't necessarily there. And I was talking to a good friend of mine, like a brother to me, and I was saying, I wish I would have learned more about things like the Ten Commandments and stuff like that when I was growing up. And he was like, "Oh, well, you definitely learned about that kind of stuff. It was common sense." I said, "Oh, really, was it? So what does covet mean?" He's like, "Well, what do you mean? What does covet mean?" I said, "Well, what does covet mean? You said it's common sense. So if it's common sense, well, what does it mean?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not really familiar with the word covet." I said, "Okay, well, that's all right, because the word covet means to yearn or possess something that's not yours. For example, if you're walking down a Walmart aisle and you see a guy walking with another, a young lady you might think is attractive, and you say, 'Wow, she's really pretty.'" He was like, "Oh man, if I say something like, I'd hit that or something like that, that's not a big deal." I said, "Yes, it is, because when you say you'd hit that, you're coveting another man's wife." He's like, nah, man, you thinking too deep into this. You thinking too deep into this. I said, "No, you're not thinking deep enough, my friend, because the word of God says, so a man thinketh, and so a man thinketh, he does so in his heart." So when you think that woman is attractive and that you sleep with her, you've coveted that man's wife, just like a man would do with another man's house or his car or his job or his money, his finances, things of that nature. Same thing with women and children and all those things. And he's like, nah, man, you got the whole lust thing too. He's like, you're thinking too deep into this. I said, okay. So when you're walking down the aisle and you see this beautiful woman and you say, man, I hit that. I said, would you do it in private or would you do it in public? And it was silence on the phone. I said, did you hear me? He's yeah, I heard you. I said, okay, so would you do it in private or would you do it in public? And he's, nah, man, I'm just testing you. I said, okay. I was like, you might be testing me, but are you really deceiving yourself? This isn't business. This is personal. But see, what happens is people don't know God, but they blame him. And how can you blame somebody you don't know? That is the deception that we all have in ourselves sometimes. And not just as non-believers, but as believers too. Because what happens is we shift the blame onto God. And if you were to think about this as a business, you don't just, kind of write him off or push him off to the side. You fired him. You have literally fired him. And those same kids that I was talking to Jackie about, they fired God. Just like I fired God when I was an atheist. And what we need to do is we need to learn about who this person is, who this individual is, who this entity is in our lives. And we need to learn really what he's there for. And a lot of people aren't doing that. So, like I always say, this isn't business. This is personal. And in my house, we will serve the Lord. So, I just want to thank everybody for watching the video. Again, sorry I couldn't do this on Facebook Live for some reason. Where I'm at right now, we don't really have a lot of service. But if this message helped you, please share it. Please add people to the Reggie Garland page, the one that's about my writing and things like that. Remember, the first part of From Atheist into a Believer is going to drop on a website that we're working on right now. It's going to be dropping Easter, which is April 16th. That's a Sunday. Again, please, just like Jackie, if you have different ideas or different topics, please share those. I think people are getting fed by these, and I do a lot of research and studying and kind of talking to people before I do these videos, so hopefully they're well thought out. Just comment what you guys think about these, and we're coming up with different t-shirt ideas for the website. Of course, it's not business, it's personal. That's going to be one. Different Yeti mug designs, t-shirts, coasters, just different things. So just let me know. One love and God bless everybody.